everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you how you can paint these lovely hydrangeas at the beach. It's got a great sort of sunrise or sunset, depending on your point of view. You know, it's your painting happening, a distant figure who's optional walking in the distance in this great set of hydrangeas. I'm going to show you some cool tricks to painting hydrangeas a little bit easier and have them not look crazy. I know a lot of you guys wrote me and were like, I love hydrangea flowers, but sometimes I feel like my hydrangeas look crazy. To help me do that is my husband, John.
Hello.
He's going to make sure that you can really see everything I'm talking about, that the camera is zoomed in when it needs to be zoomed in, that you can see the color mixes on the palette, the tools that I'm using, the techniques that I'm demonstrating. Another thing is I have put together a playlist. We have 6 hydrangea paintings, the shortest of which uses Q-tips in is 5 minutes. And this will probably be one of the longer ones, but it ranges through that full set of skill levels. So if you love hydrangeas, you want to try a different style, you want to look at something different, we definitely have those there. But this one is definitely, it is unique in its particular aspect. Though we do have an easy set of hydrangeas at the sea. I like this topic a little bit, is the problem. I like a hydrangea.
Yeah,
they're just a fun flower to paint. I'm hydrangea colored, so you know I'm committed to it. Now, if you're very new to painting, or this is your first time at the show, how this is going to work is we're going to break this down into steps. Those are going to come up on the screen. Later, those are timestamps, so you can find your spot again, because I expect this painting to take a little more than an hour, right? And your painting time will be a little slower than mine, because you want to pause me and rewind me where you want to see something again. That's the great beauty of replay on the live video. If you're here during the live and you have a question, put it all in caps. Now, there are several people here with wrenches and they're moderators. I know in a lot of shows, moderators are kind of art cops or, you know, community cops, but ours are not. Their whole purpose is to help you find the resources that you're looking for. Our moderators are people who watch the show. They're viewers just like you who watch the show for a very long time. So they know of the 1,500 videos that I have. Actually, more than 1,500. I think I'm going to need to look and update that. We might be getting on 2,000.
It's a bit.
The shocking number of art lessons that I've taught online where I might have answered that question in a video or where that resource is on what is now our extensive library. So they're kind of like librarian guides, right?
Yeah.
So they're very friendly and they're here to help. Sometimes I answer questions live during the show because I look over there and I'll see the chat and I'll be like, oh, I like that person. I might answer their question live during the show. Now, this is live, right?
Yes.
But remember, this is going to be available for replay right after. 7 to 14 days after the show or so, a book is released of the lesson. So basically, that's written instructions that match the video that have step-by-step photos. So if you're somebody that has a layered learning process, which many people do, or you need to be able to read it or see it, that's something that comes out. A lot of times we'll release a time lapse, a little short of it after, so you can kind of watch it in speed and get a sense of how it was built. There's a lot that's there for you that's for free. And of course, if you don't want to draw, I have a traceable, which by the way is not cheating. I've been doing art a long time. I can promise you tracing is a technique like projection or gridding. It's just a technique. Though, see, I have this feeling that if I teach you how to paint, you might be excited to learn how to draw. So, yeah. Right? You're going to get so good at painting, you're going to be like, maybe I'm going to get into this drawing thing. But I don't want you to feel that that's the gateway to your creativity, because it's not. I am really going to break this down in minutia. Let's go over the materials real quick so you know what we're using, because I had we were kind of rushed getting on because I needed coffee and I made an oopsie on my palette, but I'm just going to lean into it. Okay, so there's mini me, and over here I have my 8x8 surface. This is an 8x8 square canvas. I do squares a lot now, because what I found is that they're easy to hang and they're easy to size up bigger or smaller for you at home. So if you want to paint it really big, if you keep it square, everything stays in the same aspect ratio. In other words, its placement on the canvas doesn't change. It's just bigger. I meant to just have black here, but I put up the Diox purple because they look similar. And then I was like, there's purple in the painting. I could find a place to use it. I didn't want to like scrape it off and throw it away and waste the paint. So that's how the purple got there. It was actually my intention to do the painting without it, but now we have purple. Yay, us. Yeah. Sometimes that happens when you put out the paint and you're like, oh, okay, I'm using that color today. Phthalo Green, Cad Red Medium, Cad yellow medium. There's the Mars black I meant to put where the purple is. You can see that in value they're sort of the same, and the issue is their tubes of paint in the line that I use look similar, so that's how it got me. Yellow ochre, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, quinacridone magenta, and of course in the center is our titanium white. Oh, Heather C, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Gwendolyn is concerned, so if she doesn't answer, she doesn't like me. You know, when I said that, I immediately went, oh no, there are going to be people who think I don't like them. It's really probably that I didn't see your question. If I don't answer it, I just didn't see it. But the mods do try to capture questions and everything and make sure that they get answered. That's why we have so many volunteers here helping out.
Yeah.
Is because it takes a village to get us through a painting, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to sip my coffee that I made us all wait for.
Oh, no, it's good. I need coffee too.
If you are new here, what you don't know, what all the regular viewers know, is that I am useless without coffee, and waiting is probably a good idea. Shall we throw up a first step?
All right.
All right. If you're going to do the traceable, this is when you're going to be getting that out. I am going to just sort of loosely sketch this in freehand into the painting, because we're going to do an interesting thing today. Instead of doing an acrylic ground, which is a solid color, we're going to do an underpainting, which is sort of painting zones and then coming back to each of them. So that's going to be sort of fun. If you imagine that the center of the canvas is right here, and I will take a T-square to verify that. That's a ruler that lets me get straight lines. And I take my ultramarine blue paint here. You would just do the transfer if you're doing the traceable, but I'm going to use paint so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to come across here, and I am going to make a straight line. And guess what that is? That is our horizon line. The big thing about having a straight horizon line, especially in oceans, is if your horizon tips, what will happen is it will look like the ocean is pouring out. Now, down here, not too far down, because we're going to be doing a vanishing little ocean. I'm going to come down a couple of inches, and I'm going to make a line that sort of bisects. See, like this? This is the beach going away from us, right? That's where the water and the ocean is and everything. It's going to be traveling away from us. And then we're going to very carefully come over here, just a little bit above our horizon line. And then I'm going to draw a little bit of a circle. See how we're doing? Just a little bit of a circle. Now I'll paint back into it in a second. Right? But we're just wanting to know where that is. And then maybe a little smaller circle next to it. That's another little Hydrangea pom-pom. They have pom-poms. This one is maybe a little more oval. A little leaf coming out. Two of them layered next to each other. You can kind of see this is just letting me figure out where my little Hydrangea pom-poms are going to go. I do them a little smaller when I'm freehanding them in like this than they'll be in the final bit. And that is really because I want to be able to make the flowers bigger around, and I need to give myself room for that. It's just a little strategy or plan that I can make. And I have a tendency to get carried away with the flowers. You should just know that now. Somewhere in here, I'm going to get carried away with flowers because they're fun to paint. So either you have done the traceable, or at this stage you have decided to come in and do the freehanding like I have just done. Either solution is just fine. Now I did all this with the number 8 Art brush. This is from Raphael's Hog Bristle Round. I know you guys are having trouble finding some of those or finding good prices on those. The art store will be open soon on our website. We have the store open for retreat tickets. If you want to come to an art retreat and paint with me or my mom live in person in the Poconos for like a week, endlessly eating and painting with us, eating and painting, eating and painting, eating and painting. Well, I should say snacking and painting. Imagine it's a Hobbit's getaway.
Yeah, it's like
there's
it's endless noms.
It's eating and painting.
And that's probably the thing we work on improving the most every year. It's like the first year we had snacks, but we realized we needed better snacks. And then the second year we had better snacks.
Yeah,
and then,
we are.
Then we got trays of fruit and cookies and cheese.
I'm not going to lie. It's kind of an eating holiday, right? It's an eating holiday.
We're going to up it next time. I want little cakes.
Okay, so we're going to come up here. Let's put up another step, and we're going to continue painting.
You don't need to dry this one?
I don't really need to.
Why?
Just not needed. Oh, and you know what I did?
No.
I didn't put out my Phthalo Blue. Man, I'm having trouble with my palette again this year.
You're going to need some colors.
What is going on with me? I'm going to put it right here.
Step 2 is the step where you add another color.
Phthalo Blue. Luckily, I will go through and fix the description. I don't know what is going on with me. I am just out of it today. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, I'm going to get my brush a little bit damp. This is a number 20 Artini Bright brush. This is damp. It doesn't have a lot of water on it. I'm going to go ahead and add a little white to my brush and a smidge, oh gosh, just a smidge of the yellow. I'm going to come here and kind of come up, about an inch or two up into the sky. Now I definitely, you can go over your blue line a little bit and into your flowers, because remember, we're going to make them better. We just had to know where they were as you go. I'm going to go ahead and get a little red and yellow together as you do. And I'm going to come here on the edge right there in the center, and I'm going to make little short back and forth marks to kind of talk about, oh gosh, a little glow that we'll be really looking at later.
Sky glow.
A sky glow, as you do.
Artists
Rinsing
love
that
it.
out thoroughly. Rinsing it out thoroughly. I'm going to take a little of my Ultramarine blue, white, and Phthalo blue together. Come right here. And just go back and forth. Remember, this is an underpainting, so it isn't our final sky by any means. Now, when I get here, I'm going to come back over the little area. Now, there's going to be clouds to help us, but I'm just making a little bit of a transition. See how I just sort of soften that transition just a bit?
It's softed.
It's softed just a bit. I might get a little burnt sienna in here, because over here it's a little smoked. But it doesn't need to be perfect again right there either. These are just the beginnings of what we're doing. Underpainting. Okay. So instead of just a ground, we're doing that as an underpainting. Now I'm going to come here and take my Phthalo Blue and my Phthalo Green together. And I'm going to go ahead and just paint in a little bit on my ocean. There we go. Looking pretty good. Just a little triangle of turquoise right there. Rinsing out thoroughly. Really getting the paint out of my brush. I'm going to come to where we have the beach, and I'm going to mix my yellow ochre and my burnt sienna together. And I'll go ahead and paint into my flowers a little bit. This is actually blocking in and creating kind of an underpainting. Right? This is also helping us kind of think about where objects are on our painting and how we're going to lay them in. And that can be very, very helpful. I'm going to take my burnt sienna over to my Phthalo Green. And kind of come around my pom-poms just a bit. Painting that area in with that dark green. This, believe it or not, does make our work easier later. Maybe you want a little brown on that, so I'll come back with some green. I'll put this aside, and I will go ahead and I'll take advantage of the fact that I have this nice dioxazine purple that I put out anyways. Now I know I'm going to make these bigger. Like, I know that. But this just gives me a place to start. I switched back to my number 8 round. Was that a number 8 or a number 6? So when you need glasses, 8. That was a good guess on my part. And look at how that already starts to like lay in what we know we're going to be doing. Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to be using sometimes more pink or more lilac or more lavender. This dark color just lets me work in the shadows. We were talking in the watercolor class last night about how watercolor paints in, you know, perhaps a little differently than our, you know, just adding that green back in. I can do that anytime. Than our acrylic does. And this would be a good example of that, about how we put in the dark values maybe a little bit first. You'll notice that I'm just kind of keeping these outer edges a little bit loose. Just a little bit scratchy, just a little bit. What? I love the sound of the
squishy, the brush.
yeah, the brush on the canvas. Sometimes I get lost in the painting just listening to that sound. You can see I'm kind of doing it back and forth, a little scratchy motion, and then I might imply that there's some stuff peeking here. You know, we have little ones peeking out here and there. But that, my friends, is the underpainting, and that's really all you've got to do to get the core of this together. Now, what's great about this is that when you come in and you do things now, it's all zoned out. When you paint over it, you've got a tone underneath so that the canvas will always look really finished. And it kind of gives you a roadmap. And it's a lot of the reason here is why I will say, oh, well, the traceable isn't really cheating, because you paint in areas either solid or with these big blocks, and you still have to be able to paint it out. So what it is it's just a guide. It's just helpful.
Yeah. So, going through and answering all the questions, I'm going to see if I'm not sure, Crystal, if you're asking about the watercolor kits. I'll try to come back into that. Let's see here. Wendy, there is info about our retreats on our website. If you go to theartsherpa.com and then click on events, it'll have a whole bunch of stuff up there. There's probably both past and future event stuff listing up there. You can find that. And Mary, for tabletops easels, yeah, there's a whole bunch of different ones, and it really depends on how you're going to use them and what they're good for. I know that Cinnamon and I were talking about doing a video where she talked about which tabletop easels she liked better, which ones she didn't, and why. So
I don't even think we had this one in there, though.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that they were asking about that, and I was going to say you're thinking about doing a video talking about that in the future
this
anyway.
Actually I got because my mom was using this up in her studio, and it was able to tilt it up, and her John, not my John, her John was able to get a good shot on it. And we had been using a roundabout, and I was like, oh, I want to try that. So John figured out how to make that work for us. But I do actually like it.
Yeah. Now she was asking for suggestions on ones that she might like, because she has to get a new one. And I was going to say you're probably going to do a video about that.
On the beginner, and also on the beginner acrylic painting course,
right.
I have that there. So I think it's the how to set up your studio, and I cover easels in that one. And I do give easel recommendations, and there's easel recommendations directly in the mini book, which is, I think, helpful.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a step. Right.
So new step, I'm going to take my Ultramarine blue and my Phthalo blue together, and I'm going to come up at the top of my sky with my number 20 hog brush, and I'm going to just deepen that color. And that's sort of lovely, isn't it, as it kind of gets darker up in there.
They would very much like the tabletop easel video. A breakdown of all the type. What do you like, what do you not like, and why? Tell us more, Sherpa, about the easels.
About the easels. I'm going to take a little of my yellow over to my Phthalo blue. And I'm going to add a smidge of white to it. And right here, kind of between these two things, I'm going to go ahead and blend that upward. I'll go ahead and get some brown into it and come over here again and smoke that out. I'm graying it out is what I'm doing. You could also get into the purple. It really, any of it's fine. We're just graying that little far out because that's like maybe the mist of clouds that's there. Now I'm going to rinse my brush completely off, and I'm going to try to make sure, if I can, that this has nice transitioning. And one trick that I can do to get it softened is I can come in, look at this, with a soft brush and kind of blend that out. Isn't that extraordinary? That works where the paint's still wet, and it will let you get, you know, a little more softness going in something. Now again, there is some of it that is just going to be, we have the yellow going here. So what we've got to do is rinse out. We want to get that nice soft transition back into our yellow and our white. I don't want to bring the green back down into my yellow zone. I don't. But I don't mind bringing the yellow up here. I'm going to come in with my second brush and kind of softly work this in. I've got a little more yellow and white on there, and you can see I'm using my soft brush to sort of create this little glow. So what am I not doing? I'm not fighting that green that frustrates everybody. And if you ever look at a sky that is transitioning from this color range, what you're going to notice is that there actually is a little banding of that happens. So this is the 1-inch oval mop by the Princeton Select, and it's a synthetic mop, and it's just a very soft brush. You could use a fan brush, just any soft brush that you have in your bucket will work for this. Now let's dry this once you have this here, and we're going to come back and I'm going to show you how to finish this out.
Ah, so yeah, thank you guys for asking. I appreciate all of the. Does she have paint in the soft brush? Wendy, I'll ask. I'm not sure what you mean by does she have paint in the soft brush. Has Cinnamon done eagles or a phoenix? Yes, she has done a phoenix, which we affectionately call fire chicken.
Yes.
And you can look that up. That's one we have done. I think we've done an eagle too. Yeah.
But like not officially, it was a cookie lesson in a celebration of
like
yeah, sometimes some of our videos have secret lessons in them. We'll be celebrating like you know, reaching a number of subscribers or something that happens, and we'll hide a cookie lesson in a video.
Ready for your step?
I'm gonna get back into this round brush just because this will be a good one, and I'm gonna make sure it's rinsed out thoroughly and that I've dried out the bristles. And one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my yellow, mix a little orange into it, and come over here and get into my purple. Very slowly sort of adding that in until I get into a putty range. That, my friends, is going to be the beginning of our clouds. So I'm going to come here on this brush, and I'm making little soft curled brush strokes. I lift the brush and I touch it back to the canvas, and I want to build up my little clouds in a kind of irregular little set of shapes. When they're low, we're going to put them a little bit darker. It's interesting how mixing the purple and those colors will give me like the smoke that I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going back and forth, creating sort of some of that soft, distant haze. Let's go on the brush a little bit, just on the toe. Sometimes I'll add a little more white to it. And it's crazy how that kind of sometimes feels like curl some little light clouds that could be going off into the distance. A little darker down here. Just using this one brush. I love painting clouds. I know that they are one of the harder topics for people to sort of warm up to. You know, when they're painting, I'm getting a little more orange into my cloud, if you'll notice. Just using my little round brush to create these weird little cloud shapes. But you can see already that the bank has started to build. Work some dark color in here. Going to be adding little highlights, but you just want to kind of get it going in. Let's rinse out thoroughly. Take out a little of my yellow. And come right here. Kind of working some of that yellow between those two little banks. See how we're doing?
Yeah.
Wipe off.
One of those.
Add a little bit to that sort of orange.
These pesky little guys.
Yeah.
So get it.
Okay. Just working that in there. There we go. A little white and yellow here. You can see it's just on the toe of my brush. Kind of talk about that here.
We've had this crazy storm here in Houston the past few days, which has caused all the groundwater to come up. Like we had flooding in the streets a couple days ago. And so now...
We are super okay though.
Yeah, we're super fine. But there are just ants everywhere. They were just like, the ground is full of water and we are coming out of the ground now.
So I'm just bringing that in there, kind of adding those little highlights to everything. I can always come back into my gray. Right. And if I want to kind of warm it with a little quinacridone pink, I can too. A little whiter than that. Kind of pulling that through there. Little bits of that kind of worked in. Bring that little range up here. It's fun to do. I think. I enjoy it super much. Super duper much. Now I'm going to come here and get a little more white into my mix, which was my orange, if you remember, and my purple over here. can always just grab more if you need it. And I'm going to bring some areas that I'm starting to highlight.
I don't think we stepped after that break.
I don't know. You are in charge of steps. So if steps are missed, that's you. You are in charge of steps. Remember, we declared me not in charge.
Yeah, I just
because
think
I
that
mess this up.
after we came back from the what do you call it?
The drying.
The drying. I was talking, and then we got talking, and then you got to teaching, and I forgot. So we're in the 5th step.
Okay, I'm not sure putting them up late and time stamping them late is really helpful to the anything.
Yeah, we put them in the book so that they go to the right place.
Okay, as long as it's in the book.
Yeah. And then I also update all the steps for the pictures so that they're correct. And the team has a process even when I mess up.
I'm so glad we have help because obviously we need it. Just pulling some of those lighter colors in. You can see how that starts to build these little clouds up, doesn't it? And I can come in and even get some like maybe distant little cloudy little bits that come up here. It's fun to break some away. And that's sort of the secret to when you're trying to do skies is so rarely are they just a cotton ball and a cotton ball and a cotton ball. You know, most often they are quite complex little bits of interest, you know, and clouds break off of you know, can add interest in so many places. We'll rinse out.
Now, at the end of the show, you're going to update your color list.
Yes, I am, because I don't know what was up with me. That's me, man.
Just to clarify, some of the folks were wondering what that there's going to be some changes to that color list at the end of the video.
Yeah, I will always update that. All right, we're going to add a little bit of that orange to the front of some of our clouds. So now we're doing, and that creates that little bit at the beginning of the glow. Maybe a little more cad red in there. Sort of softens it, right? Kind of add some of that right there. Sort of on the little toe. Creating a little of that drama. Be a drama llama in your painting.
I like the sky.
A little bit of the white into the cad red, and that just kind of pulls that on in there. Take a little bit of my Ultramarine blue and my Phthalo blue, and I'm going to come in and sort of glaze and deepen some of these corners, right? And what that is there's very little paint on there. I'm just making sure that we've got Doesn't that look good? Looking very nice. Good transitional sky. Now into the white and yellow. See how that's, boom, it's drama. I don't want to take out the slightly darker completely because that's some of the dimensionality to what I've got going on. Just working the toe. Just pulling little bits of moments. Maybe a little more yellow on that one. Just really working just the toe of the brush. See how we start to create that sense that there's light hitting those clouds. That's the big deal right here. You want the light to hit the clouds. You've got time to really play with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's super important that you give yourself that time. You know, sometimes we like to come in white line,
Yep.
come here a little bit into my purple and orange and white. Maybe I add a little dimensionality and highlights up into these little fluffers that are going away. There we go. I just play with it until I feel like I figured it out. Add a little yellow in there, just trying to warm and drama it up. All right, I'm happy with that. Getting there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You know, just working that out. Bring a little kind of white drama along that horizon there. Okay, let's dry that. We're going to call that a step.
All right.
It's a step.
It's a good step.
It's a step.
So thank you guys. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us and being here. We really appreciate everyone sharing and commenting and doing all that stuff to be here. It really does make a difference when you click the little thumbs up button and you click the share. Like when you share, sharing is caring. Like posting and sharing our video tells like the YouTube algorithms all sorts of crazy stuff. So like when you guys do sharing and posts and on social media, it really does help. So thank you guys. And Crystal, I will see what they're looking for here for you. We'll see if we can get our moderators to help you out. Step time.
Step time. So Kenzie is saying that they hadn't thought of hydrangeas in a beach. And what I would suggest is that on the East Coast, there are a couple coastal regions where I guess hydrangeas grow really well near the water. Like in that sort of, I don't know. I don't go to any places where rich people go, but like where Martha Stewart goes, wherever that is. Remember Martha? That lady. Yes. That. Now I'm going to come here and I think I'm going to work on my sand for a little bit. Put this aside and aside. Well, actually, this might be fine. I think I can kind of get in there. I'm going to go into my white and my yellow ochre. And maybe a little white here. I'm going to go ahead and just pull that along that little water line. Just my yellow ochre and a little white. I'll wipe out my brush, but I don't have to really rinse it off. I'm going to take a little bit of my burnt sienna and my Mars black, just a smidge. I'm going to go ahead and sort of finish out my dark sandy beach. And you can see that having that color underneath really sort of helps us. Can always take a little bit of my orange and my burnt sienna and kind of come in here and add some warmth to some of the beach. It's subtle, but it's in there, right?
It is in there. It looks really pretty.
Just a little bit brushed down. You know, maybe a little more warmth, like of the rust. All right, just got the beach in. Not stressful, not upsetting, just a very easy little beach. Let's dry that and we'll come back and do the next step.
Yes, and Allison, we will absolutely add a list of the brushes to the description. Normally those are, we try to put them in ahead of time, but Sim doesn't always know what she's going to use. So sometimes it's, you know, she'll decide in the middle of a painting, like, oh, I need to do this, or she'll demo a different thing. So that can happen. And thank you, everybody, for joining the patronage. My golly, there's so many people
This is going
joining
faster
today.
than I expected it to go. It's actually going to wrap up probably in the next 20-30, so I'm
yeah,
sort of excited how
Let's
it's
get you
going.
another step.
Let's get me another step. Are you guys doing okay? Take a deep breath. Let it out. Take a deep breath. Let it out. Again, this is the number 8 Artini brush. These are good hog bristle brush. You don't see a lot of acrylic artists like really leaning into the hog bristles, and that's because when they get wet, they get soft and waterlogged, and that can be a problem with acrylic, but that's why we keep our handy dandy paint towel nearby to pull the moisture out of the brush. Okay, I'm going to take a little of my Ultramarine blue and I'll smidge my Ox purple into it and add some white to begin with. Maybe even grab some of this over here that we mixed earlier, that purple that we mixed earlier. And I'm going to come along this little short edge. On the little toe. creating that little sort of area there. And then I'm going to get into my Phthalo Blue. And they'll come right there. Phthalo Blue and maybe some Phthalo Green and a lot of white. So this is sort of wider here and tapering in. Now I'm going to get a little of my beach color here, my yellow, ochre, and white. Looking pretty good. Getting that shoreline thought about. And I'm going to go into my Phthalo Blue and Ultramarine Blue and a little Phthalo Green. I'm going to come along here and try to make as level of a horizon line as I possibly can. And if I go into my hydrangeas a little bit, that's fine. So be it. I don't care. You got to do what you got to do. Now, we're starting to get that sense of how things are going along the beach. I'm going to do a change here. I'm going to rinse this brush out, put it aside. I'm going to throw my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to dry this, and when we come back, we're going to put the details in of the waves and the little things that will make it feel reflecty and all that stuff that makes it feel like a shore.
So yeah, just a quick dry. Make sure you thoroughly dry that. And man, the clouds look so good there. I like that sky, how it turned out. And Lily, cinnamon hog over synthetic. So different brush, different things. So the hog brushes tend to hold more water. They do a little different thing than the synthetic brushes. So I think that it really kind of depends on your application.
What?
Hog versus synthetic.
Yes, it really does. I like the hogs because they're fluffy, and sometimes I like the fluffy effect, the way it's blendy and soft, right? But I like the synthetics because they give me a nice sharp interaction. I'm going to try the number 10 Texture round. I'm going to go ahead and get this a little bit wet, dry it out. And let's put a little white and maybe even a little burnt sienna there and load up the tip of our brush. I'm going to come from the edge right there. A little bit right there. And I know this is going to want to have just a little bit of sea foam. Right where the wave has come up on the beach, but, you know, it's pulled back. Pulling that there. Adding a little ultramarine blue to it. Coming back with my ochre and my burnt sienna. Maybe a little more ochre and white right here. Kind of brush that down so you can see we're sort of lightening that, right? Believe it or not, I'm going to take a little of my Doc's purple and my ultramarine blue together. Makes a very dark color. And I'm going to put the shadow of what will be a wave here. Add some more little shadows of what are waves out there. They're fun to do. Rinse that out. Just fun little stuff that you're doing on there. Back into the white and blue. A little more phthalo blue in there. Get my darkest blue and kind of bring that back to the horizon line. Now, getting into my white. And I'm going to kind of just thickly, while everything is still wet, paint little bits of distant offshore foam. And I kind of went up high and then I bring it down low and that kind of makes the wave crash. That's what we just talk about that. It's just the fun. Right there, I might go back and forth a little bit. Right, that's like a little sea foamy. It feels like my horizon kind of went up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little white. I can get my yellow into it, but you know, it's really the little white. See how I use that to level that out? And that's going to be me just making sure that it's as level as I can make it. And get a little playful there. Put some interest in my beach. I might go ahead and take some of this over to my ochre. See how I'm coming in and kind of making a halftone? And that will kind of make it seem like that water is drawing back on that beach a bit. There we go. A little bit of that purple to that yellow. You guys doing good? We keeping it together?
Oh,
All right. Look at us go. Just kind of wanting, so what I want it to do is look transparent and have areas that looks like it's thinner and areas that looks like it's thicker. I can splash up some wave too, that's sort of fun. And if I do like little curved short strokes, it'll seem like chop. See how it seems like chop out there?
Yeah.
All right, I'm just getting so playful with this, but I think we're good. I think we're actually good here. We're doing really well. I might come back with just a little bit of my burnt sienna on my hog brush. And then a little bit of my yellow ochre here, kind of blend it in just to make sure that that looks really nice when I put the figure in it. Just want it to look like dark sandy beach. There we go. I think that's working out well. Let's call that a step, dry everything, and then we get to paint the flowers, which is like the whole point.
That's the whole point to being here.
It's the whole point we came today was to paint these flowers in this setting.
What about the wandering person on the beach?
Do I like watercolors or acrylics the most?
That's an interesting question. You think about that while you dry.
I'm going to think about that while I dry.
Yeah. So we're getting closer. Closer to the flowers. I think we're around the flowers now. We're going to do the flowers. Flowers. Just to think about that. Yeah. Don't forget, comment, subscribe, like, share, all that stuff in between the drying. And yeah, we'll update the link in the description and all of the lists of brushes and paints and all that stuff after the show, so you guys can have all that stuff. Yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, thoroughly dry. Okay.
Okay.
Now we're on to the 9th step.
And really whipping through. Just doing so well. Now I'm going to kind of put in some of my more designed little leaves here. I'm going to take my round, this number 10 round by Raphael. You could use my number 4 round Art Sherpa. You could use the number 4 round Simply Simmons. You just want a nice round brush that will let you, you know, have some kind of cleaner edges. And I'm going to paint in some of these leaves in a more kind of considered way. Right, so what we'll be saying is like maybe we're seeing more of the shape there. Same coming up and over. I'll be bringing a leaf down that way. Definitely want to bring a leaf off this way. Maybe darken it up through here. I know I'm going to just sort of imply a leaf there, but again, that's the burnt sienna and the phthalo green. And I'll go ahead and just make sure that, you know, there is this nice darkness everywhere. Just inform that a little bit more. And you know, another thing that you can do to make it even darker, believe it or not, is come back with purple into that green. It will deepen that up like it's black, but you didn't have to use any black. It's sort of an interesting thing, since we put it out here anyways, right? Now remember, we're going to come back and make our flowers bigger, so it's okay that we're encroaching on them a little bit. Now the trick is when I take my burnt sienna over to my phthalo green, and this is like a green I mix constantly, I'm going to take my cad yellow over to this and I lighten it just a little bit, but you can see it keeps it, the phthalo green, from being, you know, so overwhelmingly bright. So I'm going to bring a couple little highlights there. Curl that back in. I'm curling that in. Now I'm going to want to dry it. And we can call it a whole new step because I really need it to be dry to do anything else.
Now, a lot of times you guys, you want to know, when is it dry enough? And generally you'll see that it will, it's dry enough when it's completely not tacky to the touch. It'll be completely cool and dry, and you'll be able to touch it and the paint won't move and it won't stick to your fingers and it won't come off. And it doesn't take very long to do it. Depends on the thickness of your paint. You'll kind of get a feel for it, but it is important to take a little extra time to make sure you thoroughly dry rather than under drying.
Yeah.
New step.
New step. But we're still on the leaves. We're just kind of going to get them a little more highlighted. So I'm going to take a little of my yellow over to that green and brown mix, but add a little more brown. So as I am lightening, it's got a little bit of that toning back. Might even get a little white into this, and I'm going to come on the edge of this, kind of making little brush strokes back, talking about some of that dimensionality there. A little bit on that edge there. A little more yellow. Gonna take a little bit of my orange mix in there, right? A little cad red, cad yellow. Kind of add some little highlights. Some little drama moments. Just like to pull a little color in there. Back into my like maybe slightly brighter green, but not all the way, and we'll just kind of imply a little bit is there in the shadow. But it's very dark and we don't really see a lot of it. Now maybe I'm going to take my green and my Doc's purple, which remember makes that really, really dark color. Let's add some kind of center shading in there, right, from the center of the leaves so that they've got a little more, whoa. A lot of yellow. some titanium white. I think it's fun just to kind of give these a lot of color. So we've just given them a lot to think about. We're going to dry that and come back and we get to paint our flowers, which is our favorite part, bar none.
It is. The flowers will be the best parts. So, yeah, one of the things that I was just looking at in here, and I appreciate the mods also reminding and helping here, we use a lot of different brushes, and you can interchange brushes really easily across lines and things. It's really just sort of knowing the shape and rough size and the kind of bristles. You'll see that they all have a little different personality, you know, different brush line to brush line, but a lot of times they're fairly interchangeable. So if you have a if you have a blender in one, a blender in another would probably be okay.
Yeah. It's really, if it's like only one in the world, I will generally tell you, oh, there's just this one in the world. But I feel like sometimes there are many. And so I just describe the type of brush and then you find what's available to you in your area. Okay, so I have a D brush. I know these are a little hard to find right now, but you can use just a filbert. I'm picking it for the filbert side of it. Yes, it does have the rounding here to be able to do the blending and stuff, but I'm choosing it for the filbert. This is a number 4, so you'd want a smaller filbert. I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of my Quinacridone Magenta and my Ultramarine Blue. And a lot of my purple for the flowers is going to come through here. Right? A lot of it is going to be in this space. So I'm going to come up here to the top and using this little brush, I'm going to make these little marks right here. Just the beginning of it. It's kind of a little mid-purple. I don't have to take out all of my purple. All right, we're going to just be doing that. Now, when I want to have it be like maybe a little darker into the blue, I come back more into the ultramarine. And that is okay to come back into that here. Shading it on the back side. And then we can come in and be like, oh, you know, maybe some of this is more into the pink. Much like, and just do little light shading coming back. So that's just the start. If I want to get into my just purple, I can come in here and do the dark, dark shading. Maybe sort of imply a little one sort of hidden in the bush right there. I'm going to do this here. And I'm also going to take a little of my quinacridone over to my cad yellow, making kind of a warm pink that I can get into as well. Let's get a little bit of a light purple going. Not all the way white by any means. making little distinctive marks that are going to kind of imply the petals. Let's come out bigger here. I'm not trying to make rows. I am going to try to make irregular shapes. And you can see I'm moving the brush different directions. If I need more shading, I'm going to come back with that darker purple here and make sure that where the flowers in the bush, because really you're painting balls. That's the important thing to remember, is that you're painting balls. And so you want to make sure that they're shaded like there's a light source. And come right here. Again, a little pinker maybe. A little more into our magenta. Kind of deepen my magenta maybe with that purple. And let's also come out here, get that second one. And again, we're not done here by any means. Sometimes I'll come back and like work a just start this one and have this one be maybe a little more magenta in its base. But darker right back here, so I've added some more purple into it. Kind of made that one bigger because I want it to be a more centrally focused one. Just a little white into my magenta, and you can see what I'm doing is I'm just building the shape. I'm not building the individual flowers yet. That's not the goal yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. It will be. It will absolutely be the goal. But right now, shape and texture and form is what we're kind of like working in. Have this one be a little more blue. And it's a little, we're going to get into it a little more. We've got to kind of get it in. And I do think this one will be in front of it. So I'm liking that. That's looking quite full and quite, you know, I've got some sense of the lighting. Probably have to do a little more here. But we can see it now. We know where the lighting is. All right, rinse that out. Rinsey, rinsey, rinse.
Just a quick dry. Make sure that as you build up the layers of these, this is sort of the darkest color of the petals, so that gives them the base that you're going to be able to put the sort of lighter colors and layers on next. So thoroughly dry that, and you'll one of the good indications that it's dry is you'll see it go from oftentimes a shiny to a matte color, and that'll be a good indication that you've got the surface thoroughly dry. And then you just continue to give it just a minute there, so it'll see as she touches it right there. That's just making sure that there's nothing sticky. So
Okay, So I'm going to put my glasses on so I can really see what I'm doing. Now we're going to do some of these flowers more in detail and then imply the rest of them, and that's how we're going to get these to look the way we want it to. I've got my quinacridone and yellow over here with some white. Right, it's going to get me more in the peach, and I'll go ahead and start thinking about some of these. I'm going to use my round, my number 10 round. I'm going to go ahead and piece out a couple of the flowers where we can really, really see them. It's not everything. We're just definitely wanting to have some. No, I don't want quite that yellow. Definitely want more in the pink. See, and then I can kind of fill them in as I'm going. But I do want some that I can be like, oh, that's distinctly, definitely that's a flower. Right? And we'll even put centers in them and things to make those feel a little more as such. I take a little of my docks into that quinacridone. See, I'm just pressing the brush in to kind of create the shape. If I want some of these to be a little more cool, then I get into that blue. So see how that one starts to look like what it is. Come here with a little bit more white into this. Kind of trying to highlight some of that forward-facing part. I definitely want to leave it darker coming back here. Can even get into the blue, and you can see how it just creates that dusty little shadow, doesn't it? All right, we're going to let that have its little, it's going to dry for a minute. Similar sort of color range up here. Might even get some Cad Red into it. Look at that, doesn't that make some fun? Just using my brush. And I know like the forward of this flower needs to be more light, so you know, that lets me sort of think about the value that I'm using. And the dark color helps me underneath. See, I can kind of match them up like they're little flowers coming together. Let's keep getting a little darker as we go back.
Your favorite acrylic or watercolor?
You know, depends on why I'm painting. I don't really have a favorite of one over the other. I just really don't. I prefer to paint in watercolor when I'm traveling or when I need a light project. Here's what's great about watercolor, especially the new sheets. It doesn't take up a lot of space in your studio. The tools last a really long time. It's very immediate in the same way that it is as acrylic. Acrylic, I love the way it layers, and I love the process of putting art on canvas. So they both have these elements that I really, really enjoy, but for very different reasons. You know, and I think that's the big thing, is just you're finding stuff that you enjoy situationally. I think that watercolor is going to continue to get bigger and bigger because it is so convenient. Community is so great. All right, just pulling that in so we can kind of see the shading of that, can't we? Maybe too big there. But I'm liking that. That's working for me. Got my little dusty, weird pink here. I'm going to come in and add a little blue into it. It's a fun color. And you can see it's just much more bringing a little white over to it. There we go. Just highlighting that a bit. Come back into the blue. There you go. It's just having a nice time there, doesn't it? Darkening it up as we go back. Think it could use some more darkness.
More darkness.
Yeah.
More shadows.
More shadows. That's what I'm looking for. It's like, oh, how dark do I want to make that? Because value is our big tool here. Come back with a little purple, kind of adding some deep shadows into the Hydrangea. Let's hit some of these front ones. A little bit of Quinacridone, a little bit of Cad Red. A bit of magenta at the back. Just kind of doing little touches. Those little puffs next to each other. I know, lots of little flowers.
Oh, no, not at all.
There we go. Just using this to kind of pull those little blossoms in. The brush makes sort of our little leaf shape. Get more into our purple as we come back here. And let's just work this little guy out right here. Just working a little white into it. Okay, let's dry everything and we'll come in and put some more touches on.
Okay. So these are just lots of drying the layers, adding another layer, drying the layer, adding another layer. And that's sort of how you have to do as you go through this. Making sure I got my little step buttons ready. Yeah, so, it's pretty straightforward. It won't take very much longer to get the last layers of these in here. So don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, share. Check out our website, theartsherpa.com. That's where you can find all the resources that we have, like our store. That's got stuff. It's got all sorts of cool stuff, and it's going to have more cooler stuff. And that's a good thing to check out because I'm excited about it, and I want to talk about it all the time. Okay, next step.
I'm going to continue on my flower journey. All right, so I'm going to bring some yellow over here. I'm going to get a little of that onto my Cad Red Quinacridone Magenta. And I'm going to come in and just make sure that some of my petals here and there have that sort of glow on them. I'm going to think about those just a little more carefully. Maybe just a little bit of that glow on there. Maybe just a touch here. There are just a few places that nice glow has happened. It even kind of gets into where the purple is, and even though it grays with the purple here, we still sort of see it kind of coming in the back here. Maybe a little bit there. We'll rinse that off. Now get a very light color. And just make sure that there's some light happening on our little hydrangeas. They're pink, yes, but they have the light on them. Little bits there. Just more specifically, we can really see it. Fun to do.
It's really nice.
Just layering it up. Just giving those layers. And then into the very light. Maybe even lighter than that. Such a light purple. Then sometimes I might want to put some petals from my blue. Just layering it up. Getting the warmer pink up top here. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my red and yellow together. I might add a couple little spots of centers of flowers. Not everywhere. Just a couple places where, you know, I might see a little flower center. Just a little. There we go. There we go. Sometimes it won't quite be what I'm looking to do, and I'll come in and kind of rethink it. But I'm never really sorry that I do, because that really helps me find it. There we go. I think I'm happy with that. Okay, so we're going to get this into there. We're going to dry everything.
Yeah.
I am probably going to end up putting my glasses back on.
And then do a little bit of detail thing on the last bit.
I have a little guy to add.
Oh yeah, the deuter. So one last thing to do to get the deuter, or dudette, or I don't know, just the person on the beach, the little humaner. Could be human. We don't know. It's very far away. Could be from Mars or Venus. It's totally an option. We don't know. But we're going to put that person in next, because that's the next thing to do. So thoroughly dry, and then we're going to do that. Just dry, 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 dry. I thought it would have dried faster. But I don't think it'll take too terribly long. Too dry.
Too dry or not too dry? Back with the glasses, this is the question. I'm going to do a #1 monogram liner, and I think I may get some of my fluid white out on the palette, just so I have that to detail on some flowers and my deuter. Now, interestingly enough, my deuter I'm going to do with a little bit of my Ultramarine blue and my Doc's purple, I think, initially. And I'm going to give him, I'm going to do him kind of as a bean man. You don't have to do this part of the... I'm going to do a little bit of a top there. Bean men are these sort of like little barely defined little bean dudes, and their gesture and placement is what lets you know what is going on with them. He's going to take a little second to do, so I'm not too worried about him. I'm going to also kind of thin this with some water. And give him a little bit of a shadow. Just really light, something there, just so we can see that he is impactful to the world around him. He needs to dry, and then I'm going to do a little highlight on him. And while I'm at it, come and add some little lines.
Yeah.
That will be specific little flowers. See how we're doing?
Yeah.
I'll use the dark lining kind of down here in the shadow, and then I might use a lighter lining further up into the flower. Giving just some of these petals a little bit of a shadow. And a little bit of definition to them. Just a little sketchy. Not too crazy. I'm going to go ahead and get a little of my yellow, a little bit of my yellow into that mix there. And come to the back of him. And add a little bit there. We're just giving some highlights to it. A little highlight to the back leg, you know, where he's walking back. I'm just trying to capture his little, just his little silhouette, his little motion there. Come here and I can add a little highlight to the front of my sea foam. All right, little sea foam highlights. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this white into my cool color. I'm going to add some little outlines. Help define maybe individual flowers. See how we're doing? Just create a little bit of what?
Yeah. Just a little definition there in the flowers.
Just a little bit. Not everywhere, but we're just making some definition in some of these little flowers. See how we are? Just a little definition in some of the hydrangeas. Look at us go. Maybe get a little bit smaller as I go down, but I'm okay, I don't mind. Doesn't that just make it a little more magical? I don't know. I think so.
I think so.
We're both looking like, I think so. But I do think it makes a difference. This is the #1 monogram liner. You can do any one liner. And this will just help you be able to find definition. So when you have a complicated flower like a hydrangea, you can very slowly paint each individual plane, right? Because each petal is its own plane. And that is a wonderful way to go. Or you can come in and you do this interesting layering work. And what ends up happening is that you still get that same feeling that you might have had from doing each individual flower. And you don't got to worry about it so much. We're just painting around that, aren't we? We are. We're just painting around that. Look at that. Let's step back. I think we're going to be really into it.
I think it looks pretty amazing.
Guys, that was fun. A little longer than I thought, but still not as long as you might have thought something like that would take. You know, I think it's always surprising to see how quickly we can get through, you know, something in our art. I'm going to take a little bit of my green here and I'm going to give it a sign. Next weekend we have a two-parter.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's maybe even, it's like above a 3 hoot, so I wanted to give us a couple days because it's just got a lot of time involved in it. It's the girl with the blue face.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to hit the subscribe and notifications on that so you don't miss that lesson because it's going to be really great as a two-parter. I will give you a sneak peek time-lapse probably Tuesday for it so you can see the design process, how I designed her on it. Maybe I'll give you a fairy time lapse too. So you've got a little something to see on Tuesday and Thursday, but what you are doing is getting ready for the Saturday, Sunday double part 1, part 2 stream. I am doing that because I think you guys will have a much better chance of getting through that whole class with that broken up over a couple of days. This is, you know, this is lovely. This is a single session kind of painting thing, but when I painted her I was like, oh, there's gonna be a couple sessions. So when you guys were like, we gotta paint her, I'm like, all right, let's break her down into 2. She's gonna match the fairy we did from New Year really well. So be sure, do me a favor, when you see those time lapses go up, be sure and watch them, even if they're not your thing, for 2 reasons. One, because seeing process always helps you. The mirror neurons in your brain always fire when you see that, and it will help you get a better result in the final painting. 2, because it helps me on YouTube. In fact, if you're out here at all and you see my videos pop up, even if you're not planning on painting, go ahead and give them a click and like let YouTube know that you're like, oh, I'm into her. I like her, so they'll show you more of what I've got. And they're always showing you in the algorithm, so that is a good thing that you can do to help me, you know, besides the like and the comment and the subscribe, is just clicking videos when you see them.
Yeah.
Watch for the time lapses. No, that's not instead of a full lesson. It is on top of a full lesson.
In addition.
If you've at all been interested in learning watercolor, which is a really fun and wonderful light way that you can paint, we've got the watercolor channel, so go over there and subscribe. It's a whole separate, it's how to watercolor with the Art Sherpa. It's a whole separate channel. So you can go over there and you'll see little peaks and stuff like that. We've got a turtle coming up that's going to be a lot of fun in our line and wash. So there's a lot of good stuff coming up. I am whipping through Acrylic April and getting the color mixing class done. So those will start dropping for you guys really soon. And I think make a huge difference just in your painting experience overall. I'd love to know what you thought of this painting. It's always interesting for me to like do double medias like this and take these a couple of different places, and I think this came out exactly how I hoped it would, but I hope yours comes out the way you hoped it would. Where can you share that painting? Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest, Twitter. I go by only to check to see if you shared artwork with me over there, because honestly I think Twitter has lost its mind temporarily. I'm sure it will be fine in the long run.
hold on. For your hold on. I got a. Let me check something. Okay, so it looks like Cinnamon's mic has died right here at the end of it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do the thing where I make sure everything is ready and I say, be good to yourself, be good to each other, and I'm going to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.